have two words for you: random run. That's right. I want to welcome you to another episode of Random Run. This is an ongoing series on my channel where I highlight books from my collection that don't necessarily get the attention that maybe they deserve, because the books that I highlight aren't major keys. They're not sought after grails in many cases, but they do, however, represent some pretty cool books. So in this video, we are going to look at three different four-part story arcs. The first is Hawkeye, which is a four-part series, a limited series that was released in 1983. We are then going to take a look at Falcon, another four-part story arc that was also released in 1983. And then we are going to fast forward to the 2000s, specifically 2003, and take a look at Volume 2 of the four-part series Domino. Now, I have to admit, I took some time to read Domino on a recent trip. And I am the guy that is normally asleep before the plane takes off. Like, while it's taxiing, I am oftentimes dozing off to sleep, and I will stay asleep until the cart comes down the aisle or we land wherever we happen to be going. That's just one of my talents, right? Being able to sleep on planes. So I actually always download comics from Marvel Unlimited onto my iPad so I can actually read them in the event that I actually can stay awake. And I started reading Domino while we were still boarding the plane, and I finished all four parts before the sleepiness overtook me and I drifted off to sleep. So it was honestly a pretty fun read. It was an interesting read. It was also a fast read. The art was pretty solid. It wasn't bad, and I actually learned a lot about the Domino character. And I have to tell you, I actually enjoyed Volume 2 from 2003 a lot more than I am enjoying the current story arc featuring Domino. I've been very disappointed in that story arc, but this one from 2003, which I just happen to have in my boxes, turned out to be a sleeper pick. So without any further ado, we are going to jump into this video. Maybe you guys will see something here that piques your interest. And if you happen to be in a $1 bin or a 50-cent bin, you may want to pick up the Domino series if there's any interest in this, because it honestly was a fun, fast read, and I don't think that these books are terribly expensive. Now, with that said, I'm going to thank you guys in advance for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you enjoy it. All right, we're going to get things started with Hawkeye #1. This is a four-part limited series that actually came out in 1983. The Avengers Ace Archer on his own and on a rampage as he deals with his girlfriend Mockingbird. They kind of forgot that part from the cover here, but that's essentially what this issue is all about. I read this first issue, but never made it to #2. And if you've read issue #1, you might know what I'm talking about. But here's issue #2. Cover isn't as good as #1. #1 was a pretty solid cover, but they kind of make up for it here with #3. That is a cool cover. Again, this was back in 1983, and they may have been, even back then, doing some spinnerbait, trying to get people to pick this book up off the rack by saying that Hawkeye passed away. I honestly don't know whether he does or doesn't, to be honest with you, in this particular issue, because I haven't read this far. But I have a feeling that this might just be some spinnerbait action here. But that is the four-part limited series 1983 Hawkeye. We're going to keep things going with I think, a somewhat obscure kind of title. One, again, that takes up residence in the back of long boxes and short boxes all across this country. Here is the Falcon. Again, another limited series that also came out in 1983. I have not yet read this title. Maybe one day I will. It's a cool cover, right? It's a newsstand, so that's always a plus. Here is #2. I like this cover here, a little Sentinel action there in the background, also a newsstand. And then we have number 3. And we finish things up with some Electro and Captain America here. And this is number 4. And again, it is also a newsstand. So a couple of cool covers there in that in this limited series. And we are going to keep things moving forward, and we're going to look at another 4-part story arc. This one is from 2003. This is the second series for Domino. This one goes into a lot of her background, who she is, and all that good stuff. I have yet to read this one, picked it up as part of a collection, and at some point I will attempt to read it. Here's number 2. I have, however, been reading the current volume from 2018, and can't really get into it, but I at least gave it a try. Here's number 3. This is a pretty cool cover though, but maybe this limited series is better than the current one, so it might behoove me to take a look at it. Here is number 4, another cool cover. So that essentially brings us to the end of this edition of Random Run, where we looked at 3 relatively obscure titles that you may or may not have ever seen before, but that is exactly what Random Run is all about. Maybe you saw something here that piqued your interest, maybe you'll pick it up. And if nothing else, maybe you have been entertained for the last couple of moments. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it.